What's poppin', people? It's Dante. Welcome to the Centennial Arboretum. And today I'm thinking about how the Ricoh GR will transform the way you look at the world, the way you see the world. This is something so drastic, but something so critical for me to highlight here is the simple fact that the Ricoh GR forces you to view the life in front of you in a different way. You know, you could say this about any camera, but there's something specific about the camera that's always with you. There's something specific about the camera that you can pull from your front right pocket and snapshot your way through life itself. You know, there's something about the way that you can view the world differently through the back of an LCD screen as opposed to holding the camera at eye level with a viewfinder. You know, I find that the lack of an LCD screen actually liberates me and allows me to make more photographs, allows me to see differently, allows me to play and tinker more with my compositions, embracing imperfection as a part of the process. Because at the end of the day, life is imperfect. And so maybe we should strive to make more imperfect photographs. You know, one thought I have about life generally is how we're bound by gravity, the laws of physics. And maybe the best photographs are the ones that remind us this very fact, that we are bound by gravity. So getting and dropping down low, photographing the details, photographing nature, photographing with the macro feature on the Ricoh has been such a blast for me recently, where using the macro feature is one of the greatest features from the Ricoh GR III and the Ricoh GR IIIx. And so I find that ultimately this camera is the best because of its portability, because it can allow me to go through my life without the burden and the cumbersome nature of carrying a camera on my neck, where I enter this flow state of production throughout the entirety of my day with a Ricoh in my pocket. And the way in which it allows me to see the world differently isn't necessarily simply due to the way in which I remove a viewfinder, but it's the way in which I engage with my everyday life through the photographic practice of making photographs consistently throughout the entirety of my day, where wherever I am in the world, no matter how mundane things may seem, I'm always trying to find a way for me to articulate the life in front of me, putting order to the chaos in a photograph. And I think this is the goal of the photographers, to make sense of the unknown, to make sense of your surroundings, and to make something from nothing. And by having the camera with you at all times throughout the day, it allows me to engage in this flow state of production, of creating new images and making photographs of things that I otherwise wouldn't have, because I have the camera always with me on a wrist strap. And then when it comes to the technicalities and the ways in which I use the camera quite practically is by always having it on a wrist strap. And so I have the leather Ricoh GR wrist strap that I tie to my wrist at all times. And the greatest way in which this allows me to photograph differently than other camera systems is the simple liberating nature of having a camera that becomes a true extension of your eye, of your hand, of your body, where I can manipulate the camera in a variety of ways that I otherwise couldn't have with previous camera systems, like a traditional rangefinder or viewfinder style camera, where ultimately the way I can hold the camera up high, shoot down low, photograph with nuances and gradual changes, whether I'm tilting the camera or moving the camera in these variety of ways, because of its compact nature and the way that it's attached to a wrist strap, just really liberates the process of creating new images, making some different compositions, and once again embracing imperfection. So, you know, there's something about that change of perspective that the Ricoh provides that I haven't gotten with other cameras before, where simply allowing yourself to photograph with a much more haphazard, free, liberating approach through raising the camera, pressing the shutter, making a note, making a snapshot, and making photos this way changes the way that I view the game of photography and reshapes the way that I view my everyday life, and reshapes the way that I actually look at the world around me. And so now I see all of the complexities as potential photographs to make. Now I see all of the details around me and all of the different mundane moments of my life as something worth photographing, because the camera is simply in my front right pocket. And so this is something that's really transforming my photography, is using a camera that doesn't get in the way, where ultimately I find that the Ricoh is the closest thing to not having a camera. And this is what I want as a photographer. I want to simply live my everyday life and bring the camera for the ride and simply be a flâneur in my hometown, be a bystander, an observer of life, but also an active participant in the drama that unfolds on the streets or wherever I may be, whether in a bustling market or in a park here in Philly. You know, there's so much to photograph and so much to see. And I believe that the Ricoh GR is transforming the way that I engage with photography and life itself because of its compact nature, because of the macro features, because of the removal of a viewfinder and the elimination of these decisions that one must make as a photographer, whether or not they want to carry a 28 or a 35, etc., etc. I have one camera and one lens stuck to my camera at all times, and there's nothing that beats this sort of elimination of decision fatigue than using something compact like a Ricoh GR digital compact camera because of its design. You know, the fact that the lens is glued right there on the camera, you can't really make any decisions. And wow, 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 what do we have here? Look at the beautiful cherry blossom trees, the change of seasons, absolutely stunning. Look at this. Wow, wow. Cherry blossoms in full effect. The Japanese weeping fig. So beautiful. You know, when I shot with other cameras, I don't know what it was, but I would never look at the life in front of me this way. I would never photograph these different details and things. But ever since shooting with the Ricoh, it's been forcing me to go slow. And I find that the moments and the things I photograph, they simply just come to me. You know, I'm just there and I'm prepared with my camera because it's always on my wrist, it's always in my pocket. And so there's really no excuses with the Ricoh. There's no excuses not to make a photograph. You know, where the elimination of decisions, the fact that it's always with me, I can simply stay consistent and disciplined without really having to force anything. And this is transforming the way that I view the world. It's transforming the way I view the world because of the new photographs I'm making that I otherwise haven't in the past. You know, opening myself up to possibilities of making photographs that lack people, making photographs of nature, making landscapes, making still life photographs, photographing macro details. And by viewing the world and all of its complexities as potential photographs to make, I'm renewed again. I feel invigorated every single morning with this lust for life. And I'm really happy that I found a process and a workflow using the Ricoh that's actually transformed the way in which I view life and the world in general, which may seem dramatic, but I'm very much passionate about this. And it's something that I find lots of joy with. So I'm just sharing my thoughts about it. And with that being said, I'm gonna enjoy my morning, listening to the sounds of the beautiful birds, enjoying some beautiful art like these sculptures here, and surrounding myself with nature's beauty. Snapshotting my way through life with the Ricoh GR IIIx. Wow, so beautiful. Look at that. When you always have a camera with you, it forces you to slow down. It forces you to look at everything around you, always scanning, always observing, looking at everything around you as potential photographs to make. That's the beauty of the Ricoh. From my personal journey here, it's transforming the way I view the world. Every day is new.